Hello and welcome back to another week on the Solve Rule podcast. I am your host, Hannah Holden, and this is the source to accelerate your self-belief and become the person that you're meant to be. What does your heart want that you don't believe is fully possible for you? This is a question that I've been reflecting on the past week or two. It just came to me. I started thinking about my heart a lot, and this is cyclical for me. I feel like there are times where I'm more in tune with my heart, with my emotions on such a deeper level. And then there are other times where I kind of block some of that out and I'm more on autopilot, and I'm definitely more in my mind and my logic than the heart. But I think sometimes when we do that, it's a defense mechanism, because as long as we stay in the mind, as long as we stay in the logic, then we don't have to confront the truth of how our heart feels about things. And our heart has a lot to tell us when we're paying attention. It'll tell us how we feel. It'll tell us if we're on the right track. It'll tell us if we're aligned. And I think those moments are so humbling, because there's a vulnerability when we slow down enough and go from maybe productivity or being driven solely by logic or outcome, and we really get with ourselves and look at, what does my heart want? What is my heart telling me? And that requires us to get a lot more still. But there's a vulnerability, because when we really start to ask those types of questions, we might not be ready for the answers. When you ask yourself, what is it that I truly want that I don't believe is fully possible? What does my heart want that I don't believe is possible? It's a very vulnerable question, and it can definitely reveal those truths to us that are tender, those truths that we might not want to face or admit. I know that I'm this way because sometimes I'm so driven by the logic side and outcomes and achievement and all of those things, but it can be scary to switch to my heart and really asking those questions, because it can reveal misalignment that I'm not willing to address yet. I don't think I'm alone in this. We have busy lives, we have a lot going on, and we have a lot of competing priorities. We have a lot of competing values, competing desires. So it can be very challenging to navigate life and make decisions that are maybe honoring our heart, but also that we feel are logical or practical or give us stability. I think a lot about this artwork that I've seen, which is like the head versus the brain versus the heart, and just conflict between those two. But today's episode, I just wanted to spend some time thinking about your heart and giving yourself that space and permission to check in and again, just really ask that question. What does your heart want? What a powerful question. Probably a question that a lot of us don't ask ourselves very often. What does your heart want? And do you believe it's fully possible? Why or why not? When I started reflecting on this question the last week or two, I started thinking about the ways that we tend to play it safe because of that vulnerability. If we really admit the desires of our heart, the desires, what we want in our life, there can also be a lot of fear. Whenever there is a desire, there is always fear. So I've heard this before, but fear and desire, they really go together, because if we have a desire, then there's the fear that we won't be able to fulfill it. Or there may be other fears. They may be fears that, there's some inadequacy in us, or if I do achieve the thing that I want, if I do have my desire, then there'll be negative outcomes. Like maybe I'll lose people in my life, or I'll lose finances. We have these fears that come with our desires. So I think that's one reason why sometimes it can be really hard to really not only just acknowledge our deepest desires, but create space for them to live and thrive in our life. And I connect this to purpose because I think there's a deep vulnerability when we go fully into our purpose. I believe, like anything else in life, there are shades of purpose, shades of authenticity, shades of playing it safe. All of these shades being that, we only let ourselves go as far as we're ready to, with it, whether it be with vulnerability, whether it be with how authentic, how real, how self-expressed we are in life, how true to ourselves we are, how willing we are to really show up as the truest version of ourselves. Because in order to do that, we have to unpack and unlearn often a lifetime of aspects of ourselves that we've denied, aspects that we've unclaimed, we've thrown away. I think a lot about shadow work and how from the time we're young, we're kind of taught by the people in our life what is okay about us and what is not, or what is okay in a certain environment and what is not. So if you're brought up in a family where it's not okay to show emotions, then you don't show emotions, even though that might be more your true nature to express those things. All humans need to express emotions, but maybe there is some part of you that wants to be expressed, but you've created a story, or the people in your life have created a story that's not acceptable here. And I've seen this in so many different forms in myself and in clients and other people that I've met, where there's some part of themselves that they have discarded. I remember having a client a few years ago, and his was being creative. It's ironic because he's in a very analytical role, but when he was a kid, he was very creative, really drawn to the creative arts, but he was brought up in a household where that wasn't valued. And so he discarded that. So the shadow work that comes with owning our purpose is that we have to find a way to integrate and embrace those parts of ourselves that we've discarded. And so there's a lot of different ways that I've thought about purpose, because purpose is one of those things that I think is just it's a dedication for me. It's a devotion. I will probably always talk about and care about purpose because I think it's so core to who we are as humans, to feel a sense of purpose, whether or not we've dialed it in or defined it down to a sentence or a role or anything like that. It's also just about what sense of purpose and meaning that we're extracting from our life. Are we able to extract that from our experiences, our relationships, our career, all of those different facets? So there's a lot of different ways of looking at purpose, but I think the one most critical for this conversation is that I believe your true purpose will require you to be your true self. And that is hard for a lot of us. We might go 80% and say, you know what? I'm comfortable here. I'm comfortable here because I feel safe enough. I feel accepted enough. I'm not sure if I want to go that last 20%. If I go that last 20%, it's unproven territory. I don't know if there's space for me in the world to show up that last 20%. I don't know if I'll have the same self-respect. I don't know if I'll have the same respect and reputation that I've built on this identity that I've had all these years. So this is why I say that I think stepping into true purpose is very vulnerable, because it does require us to acknowledge those desires that we've just kept so close to our heart, so close to the vest. And with it comes fear of failure, fear of disappointment, fear of not being enough, all of those things. And also, I don't know, for me at least, I also have this deep fear of never expressing it. So I think there's got to be some question around what is stronger, the fear of the unknown, the fear of uncertainty, the fear of not being accepted, or the fear of never trying. Is that stronger? I think for me, the fear of never trying, or the fear of never being fully expressed in this lifetime, that scares me. I forget what I was listening to the other day. I was listening to a book by Amanda Frances, and she asked, What are you afraid of? And I paused the book and I just started thinking about all of the things that I was afraid of. And one of the big ones was just, and I've always been this way, but excuse me, the fear of not reaching my full potential, and the fear of never fully expressing myself. So it's interesting. I don't have all the answers on this one, but it's just something that has been playing in my mind a lot, this question with myself of what does your heart really want that you don't believe is truly possible? And when I made a list, I wrote everything down, and I realized that a lot of it was limiting stories, limiting beliefs around the person I would have to be to have those things. I had a lot of struggle story in there, that it would be hard, that it wouldn't be easy. So definitely worth exploring this topic around your purpose and where do you feel vulnerable around your purpose? Because as much as it can be vulnerable, I also feel like that's where the gold is. Because I don't think we're inspired or impacted by people that are playing it safe. We are impacted by people who reach down and dig deep and continue to go deeper, layer after layer within themselves, so that they can clear out the clutter and the inner critic, so that they can actually be their true self. That's what we find so amazing about other people that have done that work, that they've worked through the layers to find that self-love and self-acceptance, and they show up as that person. We are magnetized to people like that. And so it doesn't matter what you do for a living. It doesn't matter what your life is. We all have the capacity to find so much fulfillment and self-acceptance through being fully expressed, and we all have that power to impact other people. And so sometimes I think that purpose for all of us is just about that journey to true authentic self-expression, that journey to allowing ourselves to show up as our truest self, and that takes a lifetime, because we have all of this conditioning to undo. But what a worthwhile journey. So I think that's what I've got for this week, but I just wanted to kind of dig into this idea of what your heart wants. We go so often for the logic, what's going to pay the bills, or maybe who's the person in our life that's a safe choice or whatever, but staying in a relationship for too long that's really not healthy for us, all of these things. But what would your life look like if you owned what you truly wanted? What would your life look like if you let your heart guide you more? What would that look like? All right, that's it for this week. I will see you next time.